You know, what if I told you that for millions of Americans, working a full-time job doesn't even come close to covering rent? Well, today, we are diving deep into the tough reality of living on minimum wage. And look, this isn't about skipping your daily latte, this is about a mathematical impossibility. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's start with this number. $1,125. After taxes, that's roughly what a full-time minimum wage worker takes home in an entire month. Think of that as the whole pie. Now let's see how fast it disappears. And then there's this number, $1,104. That's the average national rent for just a simple one-bedroom apartment. Yeah, you can already see where this is going, can't you? The math is already falling apart. Which leaves you with 21 bucks. $21 for a whole month of food, your power bill, your phone, getting to and from work, healthcare, everything else. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just a tough spot. It's mathematically impossible. So that brings us to the big question, right? If the basic numbers just don't add up, how are people actually getting by? Well, it takes a level of creativity and strategic thinking that you are just not going to find in no average personal finance book. All right, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to stare down the impossible math. Then we'll get practical with surviving the big three: housing, food, and transport. After that, it's all about building your financial armor, then mapping out the long-term escape plan. And finally, we'll talk about why just surviving isn't a real goal here. And let's be absolutely clear about one thing right out front. This is not a budgeting problem. This is a math problem. It's a systemic issue that's been getting worse for more than a decade. So just try to imagine this for a second. Your paycheck hasn't changed since 2009. That's the reality for the federal minimum wage. It's been completely frozen. But in that same time, your rent has shot up by 47% and your grocery bill is up by 39%. That little gap between what you earn and what it costs to just live, it's not a gap anymore. It's a massive chasm. Okay, so facing those numbers, how in the world do you fight back? Well, you have to go after the three biggest budget killers first: housing, food, and transportation. Getting these under control is pretty much the foundation for survival. Now, this is where you have to get really creative. I mean, forget the typical advice you hear. We are talking about hacking the system. Maybe you become a resident manager at an apartment complex, trading some work for free rent. Or you could slash your housing costs in half or more just by renting a room instead of a whole apartment. These are the kinds of survival moves that mainstream finance advice completely overlooks. And when it comes to food, you got to think like a general planning a campaign. Your first stop, your main supply line, is the food bank. That's your free resources. Next, you hit the deep discounters like an Aldi for all the cheap staples. Your special ops forces, ethnic markets where you can get amazing bulk savings. And the regular supermarket, that's enemy territory. You only go there for quick surgical strikes when something's on a major sale. You know, a car payment is like a giant anchor that can absolutely sink a minimum wage budget. So the entire strategy here is to cut that anchor loose. That could mean living close enough to work to walk or bike. And if a car is an absolute must, then you buy a reliable older car for cash and you become your own mechanic with a little help from YouTube. The goal here is just to kill that monthly payment. Okay, so we've tackled the big three expenses. Now let's talk about defense. Because when you're living this close to the edge financially, all those predatory fees and high-interest loans are like landmines waiting to go off. You've got to build some financial armor to protect yourself. Think of this slide as your shield. On one side, you've got the traps, right? payday loans with interest rates that are just insane. It's basically legalized loan sharking. But on the other side, you've got the escape hatches. Things like paycheck advance apps that give you a little boost for a tiny fraction of the cost, sometimes even for free. Knowing the difference here isn't just about saving some cash. It's about avoiding a debt spiral that you might never get out of. And please, forget the advice to save 6 months of expenses. For someone on minimum wage, that's like telling them to climb Mount Everest in flip-flops. It's just not realistic. So here's a better way. Step 1, a $100 buffer in your account. That's your shield against those killer overdraft fees. Step 2, a $500 foundation. That's your My Car Just Broke Down fund. And only then do you start slowly working your way toward 1 full month's expenses. It's about building a wall, one brick at a time. Look, playing defense is crucial, but you cannot save your way out of the minimum wage life. It's just not possible. The only real long-term way out is to earn more money. This is the escape plan. This is all about being strategic, even with entry-level jobs. Just shifting from a standard retail job to being a warehouse worker could nearly double your hourly pay. And it's not just about the money right now. It's about getting yourself on a career ladder that actually goes somewhere. And this right here, this is where a small investment in yourself can pay off like you wouldn't believe. We're talking about certifications that cost less than a new phone, but can open up careers that pay double or even triple the minimum wage. A Google IT certificate, for example, could literally be your ticket through a whole new financial life. This is how you invest in your own escape plan. So we've covered a ton of strategies and tactics here, everything from how you source your food to getting certifications, but it's really important to take a step back and just ask, what does all of this really mean? Just let that quote sit with you for a moment. The amount of skill it takes to juggle these impossible numbers, to navigate this incredibly complex web of strategies just to get by, it's immense. This isn't about people lacking financial savvy. It's about a level of financial sophistication that's born purely out of necessity. And really, that's the whole point of these strategies. They are not a stamp of approval for the system as it is. They're tools. They're tools to help you create just enough breathing room to shift from simply surviving day to day to actively building a path toward a better future. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. When just making ends meet requires this level of complex, strategic, day-to-day planning, does that point to a problem with individual people's budgets, or does it point to a much bigger problem with the system itself?